Welcome to Talmudic Treasures. Today we're learning Ketubot page 111, which continues to discuss, as we mentioned yesterday, the value in living in Israel and having a spiritual connection by just living in Israel, so much so that it says that even if a person would walk 4 steps in Israel, that person is going to be guaranteed a portion in the world to come. And it's not just because they took a few steps, but it's the notion of the environment that you live in. It's something that can completely change you as an individual. If you are surrounded by people that are not spiritual or people that have certain negative values, there's a greater likelihood that you're going to be like them. Often it's said that if you look at your friends, that's probably a reflection of who you are. And it's also the environment of where you're in. If you're in a place, again, like Israel, just walking around, seemingly not doing anything special, but being in a special place creates this special quality about yourself. Now, within this whole discussion, it tells us that we're supposed to be careful about 3 things. And perhaps this is almost alluding to a typical workplace and the small cubicles where we find ourselves often. The Talmud here tells us that you should not sit too much. And it says if you sit too much, it's going to be bad for your intestines, for your gut, for your digestive tract, which, of course, we know this. When people are just sitting in an office, not moving around, that's obviously not a good thing. So maybe a person therefore should stand up. So in this, the Talmud says also you shouldn't stand too much, because if you're constantly standing, it could cause stress on the heart. So maybe you should move around. So the Talmud says you shouldn't walk around too much, because that could affect other parts of your body, including your eyes. So instead, the Talmud says you should devote 1/3 of your time sitting, 1/3 of your time standing, and 1/3 of your time walking, which teaches us the importance of balance. Again, when it comes to sitting, if you're sitting around too much, that's not a good thing. A person needs to be able to achieve balance in their life and not to just gravitate toward one thing, but to be able to know how to have a good mix and quality in their life. And of course, this is talking about sitting and standing, that if you're doing just one thing too much, it's not physically good for you. So we know that that's also the case when it comes to other aspects. The importance of, let's say, when a person eats. If a person is eating too much of a particular item, that's certainly not good. And therefore, at the very least, everything should be in moderation, to eat in moderation, not to eat excessively. So everything in life has this notion of balance, being able to find this sweet spot where you're not doing something too much or not too little. And of course, this has to do with all other aspects, mind, body, and soul. If a person is just focused on one thing, you may get good at one particular thing, but you're neglecting something else. So it's important that just because you're engaged in spirituality, which is very important, but you also have to develop your mind, and you also have to take care of your body. Your physical health is also important. This is the element of balance. And it's like that when it comes to everything. Even in the Talmud, it tells us that when we study, you shouldn't just study one thing. You should learn 1/3 the Torah, 1/3 Mishnah, 1/3 of the Gemara. You should know how to be able to create balance in your life. Instead of gravitating to one particular thing, try to find balance.